Welcome to the Nonprofits. And tonight we're going to talk about something that, well, is it a grocery store? Is it a gas station? What is it? We're going to talk about Buc-ee's. But before I ruin everything for you, AJ, what do you have for us?
They say that everything's bigger in Texas, and gas stations are no exception. The famous Buc-ee's is an over-the-top pit stop offering not just gas and the largest car wash in the world, but also all kinds of sugary snacks like candy and nuts, greasy pork treats, and their famous beaver nuggets. And if you're in the market for obscure gadgets and useful items like baby clothes, dog toys, a meat smoker, for whatever reason you may be looking for it at a gas station, you are in luck. Buc-ee's combines convenience, indulgence, and absurdity into one bizarre but addictive experience. This article satirically portrays how Buc-ee's represents the rot at the heart of the modern, over-consuming American identity. And this story was by Jalopnik by Bradley Brownell on November 28, 2024.
Thanks, AJ. And I've got to say, as someone who finds certain things about Buc-ee's uncomfortable, I can't deny that going to it, those pork treats and those sweet nut things that they have, they are really good. So I get why they're there, but what did you see with the article's tone and the style of the article in itself? Did that have an impact on your perspective on this issue on Buc-ee's?
I actually enjoy the humorous and sort of sarcastic tone of the article while appreciating the underlying message that the writer was trying to convey, right? He was pointing out that these mega shops are unnecessary and excessive, but also something that most people seek. They attract like 6 million customers at each of their locations per year, and they make nearly $1 million per day at each one of these locations. So to me, Buc-ee's is kind of like Alex Jones InfoWars. People know that it's trash and it's full of shit, but they follow it religiously without question because that kind of stuff sells. And unfortunately, the healthier and more environmentally friendly stuff just isn't marketed in the same way that junk is. Healthy only appeals to like a future benefit, whereas InfoWars and Buc-ee's appeal to your immediate gratification that most humans thrive on.
And not being immune to that, I definitely agree with you. And I want to switch over to Rob. What do you think? I know that you had some unique perspectives on this and how this is a reflection of American cities in general. And so what was your take from this initially?
So I watched some videos recently, and they were talking about like how American infrastructure is starting to look homogenous throughout all of America. And so that combined with, I once had an English teacher, and he would talk about how societies would build cathedrals. And cathedrals are places of worship, but they are strictly unnecessary in how grandiose they are, right? Like, you don't need it to be this giant piece of artwork to be able to practice your religion. So what I thought was really funny about this article, combined with how cities are starting to look, well, not even starting, cities are looking extremely similar, is that in America, we don't really have cathedrals because we don't build anything like this as a giant landmark for the stake of our entire culture. And you would use cathedrals as a way to talk about or express the things that you believe in. So in some ways, this is literally saying Buc-ee's is our God. And that's a little hyperbolic, I think. But what I think is far more apt is that because Buc-ee's is so massive, just like it's enfranchised and spread out, while also each location is just enormous, it necessitates making all Buc-ee's the same. And because they're huge, they end up being the same. And therefore, since there are Buc-ee's everywhere, things become more homogenous. And like I said, it's not like we worship Buc-ee's, but it sure seems to be that We are expressing our value in being able to buy knickknacks and oddities on the road.
I have to push back on you a little bit because I have to say that maybe the article is less hyperbole, and that this really is the American version of a cathedral. I mean, because it is pretty much the excess of everything you could possibly put all in one location. I mean, the huge car wash, the huge, I mean, was it 100 pumps at one of their stations? All these different things. We just took everything and amped it all the way up. And yes, of course, it's all the same. Because did you really expect us to be creative? Come on, Rob.
No, I think we're saying the same thing in that it is a cathedral, and a cathedral does not need to be expressed about a literal God. It is just an expression of our values and our culture. So, yes. It's just we don't need a god anymore, do we? We've got greenbacks.
Oh, I mean, really, isn't that what religion's always about?
Word.
But Cindy, I'm pretty sure you've never been to a Buc-ee's. As many things as I could say negative about it, if you ever come to Texas, I'll make sure you go to Buc-ee's because I think it's something you should experience. But I think your perspective would be different coming from your point. So what did you think about this from what you read about this? What was your outside perspective?
Well, it's definitely on my bucket list, So, but as a non-US citizen, it's hard for me to comment on this article because it talks a lot of things about that I don't experience as a European. So although I liked the tone of the article, it seems that the author of the article doesn't believe that the US is the beacon of light that so many people still believe it is. And I thought that was interesting. Seeing this kind of view in an article. Also, you all talked about hyper-consumerism and how this reflects on the US in general. But what I thought when I read the article was architecture, actually. Because I've seen several videos in the last few months that talk about how cities were built. And when I see cities in the US, as Rob said about Buc-ee's, I see cities looking almost all the same because they were built around cars, and that's not the case here in Europe. I grew up in a city where we have monuments that are over 2,000 years old. And it's you look at cities, they're center with usually an cathedral or church or something in the middle of the city or the village, but then around is built very, very differently depending on where you are in the country, and that's what struck me when I read this article. It's that these Buc-ee's seem to be like you never come over here on foot. You're going to come in your car. So we're going to build everything that we can so that you can stay in your car or come and do everything you can just here, so you don't have to go anywhere else. And that's not how cities are built in Europe.
You know, you mentioned 2,000-year-old monuments, and I was thinking that where I was raised and where I live now, both are considered older cities in the United States at 400 years old. So not quite 2,000, but without a doubt, there is a homogenization of our society because it seems like everybody's chasing the same thing. And AJ, what do you think about that appeal of places like Buc-ee's? You know, I see people wearing T-shirts with, you know, their Buc-ee's logo on it and their beaver, and it's just they're advertising a place to get gas and treats, so and food. So what do you think that appeal? Why does it resonate so strongly with people?
I think it's because America just enjoys excess. Americans enjoy having all the things, like Cindy just said, like having everything in one place and having everything, even if you don't need it. And this includes like the places that we visit, and especially here in Texas, as I mentioned earlier, everything is bigger in Texas. So in the case of Buc-ee's, they have a few locations outside of Texas. They have Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, and they have over 50 locations, but more than 40 of those are here in Texas. And the largest Buc-ee's is about 75,000 square feet, which is like the size of 1.5 football fields or 100 basketball courts. I don't think Cindy can probably fathom what kind of size that is really. But
anything but the metric system, right?
Oh yes, I apologize. But anyways, like this specific the location that is 75,000 square feet has 120 fuel pumps. And I remember visiting Europe. I visited Switzerland and Italy and Germany. And I don't remember in any of those places seeing any gas station that had more than like 2 gas fuel pumps. Like the biggest one may have been like maybe 3, but no, I honestly don't remember more than 2. But yeah, they have a location near Houston that has the Guinness World Record for the longest gas station, and it includes the longest car wash in the whole world. So this place kind of reminds me of Costco in the movie Idiocracy, where everything is like in one place.
What gets me about Buc-ee's is I really only go there, right, when I'm traveling. So I'm going straight for a long period of time, and then I turn off to get onto Buc-ee's. And because their parking lots are so huge for all the gas stations, the approach to the actual building always impresses me every time. You're right. Like the buildings are never like that huge, but it's just like, all right, turn off. I'm trying to get there. I'm not to the building yet.
It's a workout.
Well, one of the things that I thought about is we've touched on this almost religiosity aspect of capitalism that we see here, referring to it as cathedrals in the article and things like that. I think there's been a lot of focus on capitalism and some of the dangers of capitalism. Do you think that it's interesting that people don't see or don't seem to make a connect between their rampant consumerism and some of the things that we see in other industries where that consumerism is being taken advantage at the disadvantage of the same people, and they don't seem to realize that they're fueling the system? Or do you think that I'm just missing something there, Rob?
No, I think it's I think it's the devil you know, and I think it's just going to happen because with consumerism, and especially with that being built into capitalism, the society, the literal civilization we live in is based around being able to buy goods and services. And there are historians who have said that it will be harder to change a capitalist society than anything that has ever come before it. It's kind of like when I talk to people at my work and they're like, oh man, I would have got here sooner, but there was traffic. And I'm like, you're traffic. You are part of the problem. So it's really hard to try to give people the permission to live in a capitalist society doing capitalism and also trying to show them that like it's not good for us. That's the biggest problem with it, is you're doing a consumerism and you have to, otherwise you will just die. I personally do not have any idea how we'll get away from this, because think of the things that we had before this. We had things like feudalism. I was going to die anyway, so let's just revolt. And like, that's just not as true as it has been in the past.
I think you have a good point there, because if I'm walking out of Buc-ee's with one of those nice sweetened cashew things that the executive producer of this show that shall not be named showed me one time when we were there. If I'm walking out of there with those and enjoying those, I'm sure less likely to go, yeah, let's go ahead and fight capitalism. Maybe we'll do it after I finish these cashews. So it's kind of almost a self-defeating thing. But Cindy, what were your impressions of the tone and perspective that the author used in this article? How did you feel he handled things?
I thought it was very hard to decide whether the entire article was just a joke or was it a serious topic treated with a lot of snarky comments and irony and sarcasm. I'm still not sure on which side I'm on, to be honest. Jean de La Fontaine, I don't know if you know the guy. It's a French guy who used to write fables to criticize the power in place under Louis XIV. And he, instead of naming the people or the positions, he used animals, like the turtle and the hare, or the lion and the mice, and the mouse, and things like that. And he used those animals to tell stories about greed, about all the things he didn't like, and he hid it behind a story with a moral at the end. So it felt a little bit like this when I read the article.
AJ, I was wondering, because I believe if I recall this properly, you had done a little research on this. What about the political influence or any of that we've seen from Buc-ee's? Are they just completely apolitical, or are we seeing some of that? You mentioned $1 million per day per store of sales. Where's that being fueled?
The thing is that Buc-ee's doesn't just indulge America's worst habits and guilty pleasures. It seems like the CEO and owner, his name is Art Beaver Applin III, he enjoys indulging political agendas as well. He has a cozy relationship with many top, Texan Republicans because of his hefty donations that benefits them, including Greg Abbott, the Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Dan Patrick. In total, he has given more than $2.8 million in contributions to different political campaigns since 2015. About almost 500,000 of those went towards the 2024 election. I don't need to tell you who it supported. You can guess that. And about $1 million has gone to support specifically Greg Abbott. And this is from Transparency USA. I'm not making that up. In fact, Greg Abbott is so thankful for the contributions of his buddy that in 2021, he appointed Mr. Beaver to serve on ERCOT's board, like the selection committee, actually, the board selection committee for one term, which is 3 years. So that's a pretty long, pretty good package there. Talk about squashing each other's beaver nuggets.
Well, it definitely will make those delicious treats that I've been introduced to at Buc-ee's maybe a little less sweet. Cindy, anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to what AJ just said, because there is so much money into politics, into US politics right now, that it's hard to say whether donations are political in nature, as in I want to influence the moral political agenda, compared to I'm just paying the guys so that they don't tax me, and yeah, it just just crossed my mind when AJ was talking, and I don't know in which category this CEO is, but yeah, it's becoming so intertwined, politics and money in the US, that it's hard to say whether people have bad motives or they're just trying to fill their pockets.
Well, with that note, if you're not walking through a Buc-ee's right now, or even if you are, but you still want to see more nonprofits, I would suggest that you click down below.